Pat, you are live.
Welcome everybody. Once again, we are here today diving off Casuarina Point, or more so the Devil's Grotto. So the right hand side of Casuarina Point, here on the western side of Grand Cayman Island. We have Emil on camera today, Lauren on the surface, and I, of course, am Pat. So we do have new zoom capabilities. So I'm going to be looking for smaller things today, little crustaceans or maybe even a nudibranch. Now we do have no audio to the cameraman today, so the cameraman is actually shooting deaf. He's not actually deaf, he just can't hear what we're saying. So please bear with us while we try and figure out how we're going to work around this. I'll just be very, very directive with Emil. So Lauren, do you want to say hello to everyone?
Hi everyone from up on surface at Grand Cayman. We are currently outside John Foster's Dive Centre, our usual spot. And as Pat mentioned, he's diving the Devil's Grotto, which is a really exciting spot for us. There's normally a lot to see. So just to say hi to Summer, she mentioned it's her first time on diveLIVE, so welcome, and we do hope you join us again. Now please do send in all your questions. If you're on Twitter, make sure you use that hashtag diveLIVE. You can also ask on YouTube and Facebook. You can also request things that you would like to see. Now we can't find everything, but we can do our very best. So Pat, what depth are you at and what is the temperature?
Yeah, so I am currently at 5 meters and I have, about 20 feet. And it is 27 degrees Celsius, so about 81 degrees Fahrenheit. So we have found here a little queen angelfish. So this one looks like it's just come out of its juvenile phase. They do have slightly different markings and colorations when they're juvenile, and this one is very small, but it is, the coloration and markings are that of an adult, so it must have just come out of its juvenile phase.
Yeah, it does look really small and the coloration is different from the adult. Extremely pretty. So you can see it has that blue crown, we call it, on its little forehead, which is where the name the queen angelfish does come from. So that's how Pat knew exactly what species it was. So Pat, what are you hoping to see today?
Well, we are hoping to find some smaller things today. So maybe a little crab or cleaner shrimp, arrow crab or cleaner shrimp, or potentially even a little nudibranch, although they are pretty hard to spot. But at the same time, I'm going to be also making my way over to the sand patch, and hopefully I can also find a nurse shark. That would be incredible.
That is a very big request, but I feel good about today's dive, Pat. If you expect to see the small things, you normally end up seeing the big things.
Yeah, so I'm kind of hedging my bets here.
But because we do have that zoom capability now, we can go a lot closer to the fish. So if there is any fish you want to see, please do let us know. We do have a parrotfish munching away on the algae there. And we are able to see it quite closely. You see that big fused beak? It kind of protrudes out the parrotfish's face. That's where the name parrotfish does come from. It's really strong and is used just to scrape algae off all the rocks.
Now, Lauren, your audio is very quiet in my ears. Is it possible to see if Jared can turn it up just a touch?
Yep, he's on that right now. Is that better?
Yes, that's actually much better. Thank you, Jared.
No worries. Oh, we did have a chub on the screen there, but it swam away. So are you heading down to the sandy patch, Pat, or are you going to stay on the reef?
Now, it might be a bit hard to communicate this to Emil, but I want to show you something that we haven't ever really showed here before on diveLIVE, and it is a stylasterine. So it's kind of a coral. Can you see that on camera now? It's a purple kind of coral there in the cracks of the rock.
Yes, we can see it really well. It's very vibrant.
Yeah, so this is called a stylasterine. Now, it is a hydroid, and its actual species name is Stylasterosius, or the rose lace coral, also because it's got that rosy appearance and it's really lacy. So, these are hydroids, which are not true corals, but they are very closely related. They still have this really calcium carbonate hardy skeleton, but what differs these guys from actual corals is that they have an alteration in generations. Now what this means is that they will have this form here where they are in a coral colony, but they will also release from this colony lots of little jellyfish. Now these jellyfish will carry sperm and eggs and release them during sexual reproduction. This will then reform another zygote or another, it will fertilise the egg, which will then hatch into a larvae and resettle as this, and reproduce asexually as this colony, which is very, very interesting. And now these guys are very closely related to the fire corals, which I'll definitely point one out, but they are very similar in form. But this one, unlike the fire coral, won't give you a nasty sting when you touch it, just like the fire coral will.
Yes, fire corals hurt a lot. I recently experienced that, and it's not something I want to repeat. So Pat, we do have a question for you from Vulpine Wolf Girl. Do you have sunfish there? And what is the biggest fish you do get there?
We do not get sunfish here, unfortunately. We would absolutely love it, and I know that you, Lauren, particularly would love it if we got the sunfish, but unfortunately they don't come to this area. There have been anecdotal sightings, don't get me wrong. They could come here, but they are not ever really seen here. What we do have though is the ocean triggerfish, which I think looks a lot like a smaller version of the sunfish. Now, as for the biggest fish we get here, I would say it would be the nurse shark. Yeah, probably nurse sharks are the biggest fish we get on this reef here. Would you agree, Lauren?
Yeah, many people are probably wondering why you said shark, but sharks are classified as a fish. So yeah, Pat is right. Probably the longest and the widest we get here would be the nurse shark. In terms of the bony fish, probably the Goliath grouper, Pat, would you agree?
Sorry?
In terms of bony fish, would you agree it would be the Goliath grouper?
Yes, I would agree with you there. It would be the Goliath grouper.
We did have a request for some Christmas tree worms, so since you're hovering above the coral there, that would be an awesome find for us if you can see any. We love our Christmas tree worms. So you can see Pat is sort of swimming in a channel. There's coral reef outcrops on either side of them, and there's a sandy bottom there, and the sandy bottom is where you do find animals hiding and resting. So this is probably where Pat will be looking for the nurse shark.
Yes, a sleepy nurse shark hiding under a ledge here would be an unreal find.
Yeah, we haven't yet had a good proper close-up sighting of a nurse shark on a dive yet, so we are waiting for that to happen. So maybe that's going to be you this time, Pat.
Yeah, I need some luck to come my way.
So since we have the zoom, why don't we focus in on some of the hard coral structures there, and we can show everyone.
Stony corals?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just get Emil's attention.
Yeah.
And why don't we look at this interesting one here. Hang on. Sorry.
So while you're looking for some coral, Cenac is asked, in what depth do Christmas tree worms are found? Well, they do burrow into the coral, so they are found in the shallows of the coral reef. We
have found a star coral here, and these are a great example of a coral because they really show the individual polyps there. Each of those little, one of the diveLIVE members call it, the Cheerio coral they call this one. So each one of those little Cheerios is a single polyp or an animal of this coral.
So just to let you know, Pat, Emil is very close and we can see every single polyp. It's beautiful.
That's great, yeah. They are quite a very beautiful coral. So when I'm talking about polyps, I'm talking about the animals that inhabit this coral. So they are little anemones, or anemone-looking animals, and they have a ring of tentacles around a central mouth. Now they can use these tentacles to grab food or sting their food and paralyze it, and then eat it into their mouth and digest it. And they live inside a calcium carbonate house called the corallo, which is each one you're seeing here. So actually, let's have a look at this coral here, because it's actually got its polyps extended. So this will give us an even better idea of what these polyps look like. So can you see that, Lauren?
Yeah, we do. We see a very hairy looking coral there. Emil's just moved off it, so yeah, obviously you can't hear us, but just to the left there we can see those long extended fingers.
Oh no way, we've got an octopus!
Oh no way! Wow!
Oh yes! I haven't seen an octopus live before.
This will be the first one! Okay, we can't see anything yet, but I'm eagerly waiting, Pat.
It just disappeared. It was just sitting there, and as quickly as it came, it was gone.
Do you know the location? Because normally they do peek back out.
No, well, it literally looks like it vanished out of thin air. No.
Oh, that was such an exciting moment. We can hang around and hope that it comes back out again.
Yeah, so we'll keep looking around this area.
We saw squid this morning, so it would be great to see an octopus right now. They're great. They're the masters of camouflage and hiding. So octopus do live in the cracks and crevices, and they do not have a skeleton, so they're able to slide their way into very small cracks to hide.
Yeah, so we have lost that one. It was just sitting there looking at me.
I can feel your frustration, Pat. But we do have a beautiful tarpon ahead of us right now. So it just looks like it's completely motionless, and in a way it is. These fish are just resting, so they are just staying neutrally buoyant and hanging out in the water column.
And these tarpon right here, I would say, the smallest one, which is that middle one there, would be about 70 centimeters long, which is about 28 inches, and the biggest one there is about a metre long, so just a bit over 3 feet.
We've got a really clear view of them, and the detail on those scales. Oh. So you can see their streamlined bodies and those sharp forked tails are what normally determine to us that this is a big predator. It's normally much higher up the food chain. And they do have that grumpy looking mouth for swooping bottom up through schools of really small fish. They do love their silver sides, and if there's a big school, they'll come from the bottom, open their mouth and just eat whatever fish comes in their mouth as they're swimming up through the school. So Pat, CNAC is asking, how big do tarpons get?
Well, the biggest tarpon I've ever heard of is 2.5 meters long. Now that is absolutely huge. That is well over 6 feet.
Yeah, that's about 8 feet.
8 feet, yeah. That's help me out with that conversion there.
I'm good on them now, Pat.
The teacher has become the master. I mean, the student has become the master.
Yep, so as Pat mentioned, the biggest one is over 8 foot, so these fish get really, really big. And how big do their scales get, Pat?
The scales of a full-grown tarpon can reach up to 3 inches long, so that is just one single scale. Now that is unreal. That's unfathomable to think just one of these scales can get so big. And they are very hardy, the scales of the tarpon as well. So they're like a suit of armour for them, almost.
Well, CJ is asking, did one of them have a remora on it? You might not have seen this, Pat, because we were zoomed in. But no, I actually thought that as well. It was an extension of its dorsal fin. But yeah, it did look like a remora. I did think that, but it wasn't. But well spotted.
So, I want to show you all something that we don't see much here on diveLIVE, and it is an urchin, but I'm not actually sure which species it is. So urchins usually have very long spines, and this one has lots of little short ones. It's kind of a lot more bulbous.
Yeah, this one is quite common here in the Caribbean. We will get the name for you. And you can see, oh, that's a great shot of those short, spiky spines. So urchins are in the echinoderms group, which means they have a symmetry of 5. And they are very globular, and they always have these spines. So the hard shell, the circle, is known as a test. And then they have all these protruding spines sticking out of it. So when an urchin normally dies, the spines will fall off and you're left with the globular test. But there's actually quite a lot of animals that prey upon urchins. So you must imagine that they must have quite peculiar adaptations in order to eat this, because it is covered in really sharp spines. So the Titan triggerfish is one of them, but a lot of fish have adapted pincers or specialized teeth to allow them to eat these animals. And we were being chased away by a damselfish there, Pat.
They are feisty little fellas, aren't they? So yeah, as Lauren was saying about the urchins, that they do get eaten quite a bit, which I find very peculiar, because looking at that does not look like the most appetizing meal in the world. I definitely wouldn't want to bite down into it. But funnily enough, humans do actually eat urchin, a delicacy in some countries.
And there is a lot of incidents in the hospitals and the doctors' surgeries from people who have accidentally stood on the urchin and they have the spines in their feet. So they do need to be removed one by one. So you do need to watch where you're standing. Make sure you don't stand on one of those urchins. So Pat, Helen was actually asking quite an interesting question. What is the most unusual fish that you have seen here in Grand Cayman?
Most unusual?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Most unusual fish? Probably the jackknife fish, just because of its shape. Now, I've only seen one of them in our time here, but they are shaped like, they have a very strange dorsal fin, so they're almost shaped a bit like a banana, and they have these black and white stripes on them, so they're a very, very odd looking fish. What about you, Lauren?
That is a good question. The most unusual fish I've seen in my life is probably the hairy frogfish, but unfortunately we haven't seen anything like that here in Grand Cayman. I would love to see one of those guys. So just to clarify for everyone, that sea urchin was the West Indian sea egg or the white sea urchin. It goes by both common names.
So over here we are just going towards two white spot filefish. And with any luck, they will change their colours for us.
That would be great. I am a big fan of the filefish. And I can, yeah.
Now Lauren, I believe you have been attacked by a filefish before.
No, not a filefish. They are very gentle. I have been attacked numerous times by an aggressive titan triggerfish.
Triggerfish, that's
right. Oh, we got white spots and a thorn.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we just saw it erect a little spine on top of its head, which is a signature feature of the filefish, and you can actually see it just resting on its head right now.
Now we can see on this one that it does have very faint white spots, but at times they can make these much more opaque and much more prominent, and it can happen in an instant. So they have these chromatophores, which are special cells in their skin that allow them to change colour. And I'm not sure with the filefish why they change to this very white spots. Do you know, Lauren?
No, I don't know what the meaning of it is. It does it regularly. It will be a form of communication, but what it's trying to communicate is we're not sure. There is obviously two of them here, so it could be either a feeding response or an alarm response. But we're getting a great view of the filefish next to the tarpon.
Yes, just cruising on through. No rivalries here. They're all getting along fine. Now the filefish are a part of a group of fish called leather jackets. And leather jackets are called that because they have really, really leathery skin that once upon a time were dried out and actually used as sandpaper. So that just shows how rough the skin of these guys is.
Yeah, that's correct. We have a huge array of fish ahead of us now. We can see a schoolmaster snapper.
There's just an abundance of brown and blue chromis as well.
We talk about the chromis a lot. Are we able to get a close-up of them? Can you signal that to Emil?
Sorry?
Are we able to get a close-up of those chromis?
Yes, if Emil, well, they've all kind of just come back down onto the reef. They were all sitting up above the reef for a second and schooling about. But it's a bit hard to communicate with Emil to get this right now. So to anyone that hasn't been with us from the start, we don't have any audio on Emil today, so he actually can't hear what we're talking about. So we do apologise if there's any confusion throughout.
It's been great so far. Everybody's loving it. So Alao from the Maldives has asked about manta rays. They have a lot of manta rays over there, but sadly we do not get manta rays here, which breaks my heart as they are my favourite animal, but we do get stingrays. Stingrays are the iconic species of the Grand Cayman. So you never know, Pat might encounter one, and we did have one earlier this morning.
Yes, that would be unreal. Any species of chondricite, which is carcinogenous animals such as sharks and rays, would be great. So I am looking out for a nurse shark today, but if I did get a stingray, that would also be unreal.
Debbie was requesting an octopus, and I don't know when you joined us, but Pat did manage to sight the first ever one on diveLIVE earlier, but unfortunately it disappeared. So
yes, that was absolutely devastating. It was just sitting there watching me, and as I said, I can't actually communicate with a meal. So by the time I grabbed the meal and showed him where it was gone. It literally vanished like that. They are the masters of disguise. But I do want to show right now a grouper just hiding under here. This is a tiger grouper.
We don't see it just yet, but I will let you know when we do. We do see a little blue line grunt. That's the yellow fish. Oh, there we go. We have a tiger grouper hiding in the crevice. Now, Pat, you love your groupers.
Yes, the groupers are, they're not very widely liked, and I'm not sure why. I think because they look grumpy and they're well, they're not aggressive towards humans, but they are an aggressive predator. But I think they're really peaceful. You quite often see them staying extremely still. They almost camouflage into their environment just by looking like a part of it, looking like a rock sometimes. They're that still. And they have huge, big, robust jaws, and we can see right now, hopefully,
yeah,
how
we can see the teeth.
Those teeth are as well.
We just had an amazing view of those sharp teeth that we probably could not have showed you before.
Yes, this zoom is opening up so many doors for us. And you can actually tell a lot about what a type of fish might be eating by the shape of its mouth. So with that grouper, for example, we could see that it had a really strong jaw and little teeth, which makes you think that it would probably eat something that it needs to hold there because of the teeth and the strong jaws. So we can kind of assume that it would be a carnivore. Whereas these blue tang here in this school have little small kind of rounded mouths, and we can assume from that shape that it would probably be picking things off rocks, which would most likely be algae or corals or sponges, but in this case it is algae for these fish. So yeah, it always helps to look at the fish's mouth, and it generally will give you a good idea of what it might eat.
Yeah, that was a great comparison of the carnivorous grouper there and now the herbivorous tangs. But Proud Cat Mama is asking, what is the tiger grouper's predators, Pat?
What was that question, sorry?
What eats the tiger groupers?
What eats them?
Yeah.
Ooh, I would assume probably only sharks would really take on a tiger grouper, unless they're in their juvenile phase. Juvenile fish of any species are a good lunch for bigger predators. But one that size, I can really only think that a shark would eat that. Is there anything else you can think of, Lauren?
Definitely the barracudas would feed on the smaller, more juvenile groupers. They definitely do feed on them, and like Pat said, it would be the really, really bigger fish at the top of the food chain, and sharks. They would be the most prominent things that would feed on the groupers.
So I am still keeping my eyes out for a little nudibranch, because nudibranchs are awesome. They are, well, they're a mollusk, but they don't have a shell, or if they do, it's modified to be inside of them. So they are called sea slugs, and they come in a whole range of shapes and sizes, and a lot of the time they actually have external gills, which makes them look even more flamboyant and even more amazing. So I would really, really love to show you one of those today, since we've got this zoo.
Well, I do believe Emil has eagle eyes when it comes to nudibranchs. So you never know, we might see one of them. Now, James on Twitter is actually asking a really interesting question. I'm not sure if we'll be able to answer it, but it's very interesting. Have you observed any fish behaviour that seems to be specific to the Grand Cayman?
Oh, specific to Grand Cayman?
Yeah.
Not really. A lot of the species here are pretty widespread throughout the Caribbean. Last I checked, this was in a book, and it was a bit of a dated book, but there was only 2 endemic or native species of fish through the Grand Cayman Islands. So the behaviour we observe here is pretty widespread, not just in the Caribbean, but in coral reefs in general.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities on coral reefs in general, but there is differences between the oceans. So between the Indo-Pacific, for example, to the Atlantic here in the Caribbean Sea, there is a lot of differences. And fish behaviour, I'm not sure, but obviously we do have that invasive species of the lionfish here. So its behaviour here is probably much different to what it will be in its native Indian Pacific. Oh, we have a big fish swimming towards us. Really? Oh, another turtle.
So it looks like shark bait's come back to give us a visit again.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, let's have a look. I will confirm with the database. And yeah, we can see that big bite at the bottom of the carapace, at the bottom of the shell, which most likely will be shark bait. If Emil can just get close, if you can signal to him to get close, I will be able to confirm.
Yep. So Emil's just moving over to the right hand side now.
Perfect. Give me 30 seconds.
Yep. So just while you're doing that, I'll explain what Lauren's actually looking for. So on the side of this turtle's face here, we can see it's got a pretty noticeable pattern of black streaks or scales. So each one of these patterns is unique, just like our fingerprints. So we have a database of each side of the turtle's face and a photograph. So we can use these photographs to positively identify the turtle. And now, we do use this, but we also can use unique identifying features. So if we look at the back of the carapace, or the shell here, of shark bait, we can see that there's a bit of a chunk taken out, which we believe is from a shark bite, hence the name shark bait. So using these features, we can positively identify which exact turtle it is.
Yep, and it is shark bait, the same one that we saw this morning. And Cayenne says hi to the turtle, and so do I. So it's good to see shark bait back. A fully grown adult female hawksbill turtle who is obviously a resident of this reef, which is why we do encounter her regularly. And you can see here she's just swimming using these front flippers. She is not really moving those back ones, and that is due to the way they are designed. So turtles will use the front flippers for speed, and to get them moving, it is the back flippers that are used for direction. So they're more like the steering wheel.
Now, I get to brag on this one because Emil didn't spot it finally. So Emil is always the one that spots the turtles for us usually. So it's great that I actually spotted this one. No, and we have run out of cable, so we're gonna have to say goodbye to shark bait.
That's okay, it was lovely to see her once again. She's a very gentle turtle who is not fazed by our presence in the slightest. We normally see her feeding and feeding, looking for sponges. So I did mention previously, but turtles can actually consume over 1,000 pounds, which is about 450 kilograms of sponges per year. So they really like their sponges. So that was just an airplane going overhead for anyone who wondered. It is not coming from underwater near Pat. It is coming from on the surface beside me. So Sinak is asking more about how we know that it is shark bait, how do we name it, and how do we know which turtle it is. Well, Pat did mention they have unique pattern of scales on the side of their face, like a fingerprint. So we can identify it. I match it up on the database on the surface, but sharkbait is a unique example because she does have a big bite taken out the bottom of her shell, which we think was from a shark. So we can take one look at her and 90% know straight away that it's going to be shark bait. So sponges have lots of toxins in them. They're full of toxins and they're made up of glass spicules from silica. So it's really not known how a turtle actually ingests and digests these sponges. How they process all these toxins is unknown, but it does build up in their tissues. And over 50% of the food that will sit in their digestive system will just be glass fragments. So it doesn't sound very delicious to me.
No, not appetizing in the slightest. Now, I am actually a little bit lost right now. I actually haven't ever been on this part of the reef, so we are still over the right hand side of Devil's Grotto, but we've come to a different area, and it's actually really beautiful here. It's very topography, the topography is very complex. There's a lot of it's a long kind of stretch of reef, whereas we usually have this kind of patchy setup where it's a bombing and sand and a bombing and sand, but this is just all coral as far as you can see. And it's quite beautiful, so it'll definitely be worth checking in and around all of the holes, the caves and the cracks and the crevices to see what I can find.
Well, we have a fantastic question from Richard. I do believe he's maybe asked this before. Do we see any differences in the reef life depending on the phase of the moon?
What phase of the moon?
Yeah.
Ooh, well, there is a lot of spawning action that tends to happen based around the moon cycle. Now, personally, I haven't noticed this. I honestly haven't really been tracking the moon and what's been going on, but I know that a lot of fish do synchronize their breeding with the full moon. Do you know of any specific examples?
Not specific, but I do have that moon app. I always track the moon, and yeah, Pat is right. A lot of fish will wait until full moon or new moon to do their spawning. They can be very specific, and the Nassau grouper actually waits for the annual spawning aggregation, which entails hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of groupers until the first full moon in January. And this happens over in Little Cayman, the next island to us here in Grand Cayman. So that's very specific. It only happens once a year, and it is very much controlled by the moon. The moon will also affect the tides and the currents. So this can bring in a lot more plankton, and this will also affect the marine life which feeds on the plankton. So yes, the moon affects the ocean in numerous ways. So it's a good question. Thank you, Richard. Now, just while you're swimming there, Pat, Sinak is asking about shark bait. Everybody loves shark bait. And has shark bait ever laid eggs? So that's very difficult for us to tell, probably impossible for us to tell, but she is an adult female. She has reached the sexually mature age, so it is most likely that she will have laid eggs on the beaches. Hawksbill turtles do lay eggs every 2 to 3 years. It's not annual, and they do lay about 4.5 clutches every time. So shark bait most likely has, but I cannot say that for sure.
So here we have a school of grunts and snappers and schoolmasters all mixed together. Now this is a common thing to see, particularly with snappers. For some reason, closely related species of snappers tend to hang around one another. Now, whether they know whether there's a different species or not, I'm not sure. But it is a behaviour we see quite often here on the reefs of Grand Cayman. Now, well, the school we have right in front of us now is mostly grunts. So the grunts are the ones with the blue stripes on them. In amongst them we can see a schoolmaster, which doesn't really have any stripes, but still has the yellow fins.
Yeah, we're getting a really close-up view of that blue line grunt. It is beautiful, with some parrotfish coming in between. So Pat, CG was just asking about the mooring sites. Just maybe a few minutes previous, we did capture on camera a big mooring point. So maybe we can explain exactly what that was.
A mooring?
Yeah, we're capturing the mooring points.
Yeah, so this is actually a really good setup here, mooring, because anchors, when they're dropped from boats, hit the reef and damage it, and we do not want that at all. So by having these mooring lights here, boats can come and attach themselves, and it completely eliminates the need to anchor. So they're a really great advantage for people to be able to come and dive the reef without actually having an anchor.
Yeah, so they did appear in front of us, so it's good to point out exactly what they were. Now Amy has joined us, and Amy's been a supporter of us since the very beginning of our beta phase. So hi Amy, I'm glad to have you with us. And is that squids we have again?
We have a big, whoa, they are diving off though.
Incorrect squad of squids. I love saying that, squad of squid.
We won't chase them though because we are under a boat. So, yeah, we don't want to mess the cable up.
Absolutely. Now Pat, can you give us an air check?
Yes, I can. So, I am on 70 bar, so I'm almost about to end the dive, but we still have a few minutes left to see what we can see.
Yeah, that's a shame those squids swam off, but we did have them on this morning's dive. They must be mating in big shoals is the correct word, not sods, and that's why they are hovering above the reef there. We do have a black durgan ahead of us, and that is that black fish, which has just left our field of view. It's coming back into it, and that's part of the triggerfish family.
Is that the really small one here? So this black durgan is actually very small.
Oh really? I can't tell from here. What size?
Oh, probably about 15 centimetres, or about 7 inches. Very small. They're usually about 30 centimetres or about 12 inches long.
So again, we do have another mooring point there, so you can see it's not on the reef, it is just on the sandy bottom, and that is what the boats are attached to, which is a great implementation here in Grand Cayman, so they avoid using anchors at all costs. The damage from an anchor can be phenomenal, and many reefs cannot recover.
Alright everyone, I'm going to end the dive now, so I'm going to go up for my safety spot because I have hit 60 bar. Thank you so much for joining me today, it was an awesome dive. I'm so angry that we didn't get to see the octopus, but there's always next time. So thank you everyone again for joining me, thank you Emil, thank you Lauren. We'll see you back here for 2 more exciting dives tomorrow, 7 AM Grand Cayman time and 11 AM Grand Cayman time. We hope to get you down diving with us then.
Thank you Pat, and thank you diveLIVE family.